So it was Memorial Day 2011, 29 years old. I had a great full-time job, beautiful girlfriend, and a house. In that house had been in the backyard, there was an above-ground pool that I was diving into while playing fetch with the dog, and I slipped on the deck, ended up shattering my 6th cervical vertebrae, drowned. My girlfriend pulled me out of the pool carefully and gave me CPR. Spent about 10 days in the ICU at Brackenridge Hospital, and then from there I went to Tier Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston, Texas, for about 5 weeks, and then I came home, and I found Displaced, the Seton Brain and Spine Recovery Center, and I've been here ever since. So by definition, I am a quadriparetic. I've regained a significant amount of function below my level of injury. Most people that are complete C6s would really only be able to move their shoulders, use their biceps, and that's about it. So paralyzed from the shoulders down. I've regained quite a bit of mobility, quite a bit of independence. My core is working a little bit. My right leg seems to be more or less fully functional, yet still incredibly weak. And then there's muscles in my left leg that are working. I do is with most of us, we battle a lot of spasticity and a lot of tone, a lot of tightness. But you know, I'm a year and a month out. I feel like I'm doing really well. The end game for me is obviously to be able to walk. That's where I would like for my mobility to take me. You know, and then the other part about being a quad is you typically lose hand function. So that's another big goal of mine, is to regain as much hand function as possible, because you know, picture your life without the ability to really use your hands. Things get pretty complicated and kind of tough. So as you can see, I'm hooked up to this piece of equipment. This is the ZeroG made by Bioness. Installed about 3 weeks ago. I think it's one of only 2 in the state of Texas and one of about 20 or so in the nation. So my first impression, you know, was, wow, look at that expensive track on the wall with the winch hanging from it. Once I was on it, you know, I realized it's much more. It's a very smart and sophisticated piece of medical equipment. You know, as with any new therapist, it takes a little while to trust this person, especially when there's the potential to fall. It took about 15 minutes to trust this machine. After a few falls, I realized that you couldn't really hurt yourself. Even if you intentionally tried to face plant on the ground, it won't let you. It lowers you slowly and graciously. So once I established that factor, I was really able to push myself to much greater limits, as I would be able to, you know, as opposed to being on a walker or any other piece of equipment here. You know, when there's no fear, you're able to really you're able to go beyond the typical limits. And it's that moment right before you lose your balance, it's that moment right before you fall, that you feel a lot of these stabilizing muscles kind of engage, you know, and it's that reflex that you might not otherwise be able to summon that you're now able to call upon. And the stronger that gets, the stronger I get. So, you know, we all start out in life pretty helpless. Certainly the way I felt after my injury. You know, then we learn to crawl. From crawling, we learn to kneel. From kneeling, we learn to stand. And you know, once we're standing and we get our balance, we learn to walk. There's no difference between that and the typical stages of recovery when it comes to neurological injury like mine. So, you know, this is a great machine, and I think a lot of people at first glance think, wow, that's made, you know, to help people walk. And it is, and that's, you know, that was our first impression too. But once we had the guy come in and train us, and, you know, we realized that there's a lot more to offer. There's a lot of folks here that have no, they have no function, they have no movement below their waists. So they look at this piece of equipment and they kind of ask themselves, like, what benefit is that to me? But you can see it's supporting my upper body. If I were to get on my hands and knees, you know, I'm a quad, so my shoulders are still very weak. You know, muscles are firing, but they're not fully responsive to me. So this helps support my upper body, and in effect really assists in my ability to crawl. You know, when I talked about kneeling, same thing. to be able to go from, basically sitting on my heels to popping up to where I'm standing on my knees, basically, helps, gives me assistance with regards to that as well. And even one of the things that we all strive for, one of the great independent achievements is to be able to, as a quadriplegic, is to be able to fall out of your chair and then to get back into your chair. If you can do that, then you really gain that independence, because then it doesn't matter if you fall out of your chair, you can get yourself back in it. And that, I think that's a milestone for most quads. So this also helps with that. Instead of having a therapist under you, pushing you, pulling you, you have a little bit of help with your body weight, and from there it goes to much less help, and from there it goes to no help, and then you're independent. It's a great biofeedback tool as well. So when I say biofeedback, I get to see at what level it's supporting me, and I can kind of gauge what I do next, or I can gauge how far I push it based on that level. So it's controlled. The therapist gets to sit back with an iPod, and they can use that to control the winch and the body weight support. And then there's also a display, a flat screen display that I get to look at, and I get to see how much weight it's currently supporting. I get to see how much lower I can go before the system engages and catches me. So in that essence, it's a really good tool to further push yourself to the limits. Okay. Will I walk again? Absolutely. There's no question in my mind, and there really can't be, because that's why you get out of bed. That's why you come to the gym. I'm a relatively new injury, so I really miss the life I had, and I can't give up the idea that I can get it back.